Well, good morning and welcome. We want to continue on our look at the issue of prayer as Jesus spoke about it in the Sermon on the Mount. And we're really at verse 10 in the middle of the prayer, where the next point that Jesus makes about prayer is he says that we should pray, "Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven." Now, the problem with the Lord's Prayer is that many of us learned it by memory when we were young, so as a result, we can just rattle it off rather quickly. I mean, I didn't even have what you call a Christian upbringing, but my mom taught me John 3:16, the Ten Commandments, and the Lord's Prayer, and that was the extent of my biblical knowledge. Fortunately, I was able to get a silver dollar because I was in third grade, because I was able to say John 3:16 faster than any other kid in the class. But up until I came to Christ, that meant very little to me. And I think what happens is that we sometimes get things so committed to our memory that we stop, we may know it, but we don't think about it. And it's the thinking about biblical truths that really begins to penetrate more deeply. When especially I look at a passage like this and I say, what implications does that have to my life, and particularly to my prayer life? And I think, like everything that went before, it ties together and is pretty central, because we always have to ask the question, whose kingdom do I really want to see to come to pass? Whose will do I really want to be done? And quite often, I have to admit that what I really want is to build my kingdom upon the earth, and I really want my way. I want to see things go my way. And yet, here's the thing I find fascinating, is one of the basic fundamentals about evil behaviors, evil demands to be in control. And so as a consequence, that demand for being in control of our situations, circumstances, and the people around us often leads us into this state of being or state of mind where we have to strive to be in control of the situation. And this prayer is really a prayer of surrender. It's really coming and saying, Lord, it's your kingdom that I want more than my own, and it's what you want for me that I want for me as well. I want there to be as a consistent relationship between me and you as there is with you and everything else that's in heaven. So that right now, when you look at the earth, because of sin, the earth and mankind is in rebellion against God. We're basically defying his way, his will, and we're insisting upon the world being the way we want it to be. We want this earth to become a heaven. And yet God says that it won't even become a heaven. In fact, it's going to be much closer to hell than heaven. And one day this earth is going to be destroyed. So there's only one thing that really has any lasting tenure, and that is heaven, because that's eternal. And so bringing ourselves in that place of what Andrew Murray referred to as absolute surrender, that place where I just simply say that the thing I want is, when I asked you to become the king of my life, when I asked Christ into my heart, I basically said, I want to make you my king, and I want to move from the kingdom of man into the kingdom of heaven. And if your kingdom is that which dominates my life, then that's what I want. And again, this becomes so central because we all go through seasons in our life where things aren't going at all the way we'd like them to go. In fact, I think most of us look back over the last 10 months and saying, this wasn't what I had planned. There's so many things that have led to not only a disruption of our life, but I'd say for many people, huge disappointments. And as a consequence, we can really get into a depression, a despair, and discouragement. And even though it's become so cliche to say it that God is in control, and we hear that so much, and I don't say that because that eliminates any responsibility, because if God is in control, the real question is he in control of me? And that's what really, when we say, God, your kingdom come, it's really that surrender of my agenda. And that is really kind of, for many people, the dividing line between whether or not they're going to find peace in their circumstances or not. Because if you're still insisting upon your way, if your whole prayer life is nothing else but trying to get your best life now, then first of all, you've misdefined what your best life is, because your best life isn't to have the position, the power, the pleasure, the prosperity, the property. That's not the key to a best life. That's a key to a life that may be successful by man's definition, but ultimately you're going to find yourself looking at it all, if you succeed at all, and being really unfulfilled and say, why doesn't this make me happy? But what's more likely is that you'll fall short of that agenda and you'll feel like your life is a failure. And I just simply say that if you're in that place where you feel like you've done it all wrong and everything's fallen apart and you can't figure out what happened, well, let me tell you what happened was you misidentified what the goal was. It's his kingdom that we're trying to build, not our own. And that may cost me everything I have, as the Apostle Paul said. He said, I count everything loss, because he was busy building God's kingdom, not trying to build his own. He ended up eventually being decapitated because of that objective. And I'm not saying that's what lies in your future. I pray it isn't. But I'm just simply saying there has to be that willingness to put our life on the line and say, God, your will be done at the end of the day. That's the only way that you can really become effective in your prayer life. A person who's praying and doing it, insisting upon getting what they want, is just going to be somebody who's going to stop praying before long. And that's when I hear people saying, well, I prayed and it didn't work. I realized that what didn't work was you weren't positionally in your soul in that place where God could bless you and could hear your prayer, because you didn't want his will, you wanted your way. Petulant child that you are. So I hope that helps. I hope that gives some insight. And we'll continue on the next point as we continue on the next 2 days. God bless you and go in his grace.